much for coming and joining us tonight. My name is Sergio Rodriguez. For those of you who may not know me, I may know a lot of you know me. I am the chair of the Democracy Fund. I'm here tonight with Ali Heimer, who's our administrator, and our fund members are in the house. Could you raise your hand? Fund members? I want to thank the fund members, first of all, especially the debate committee for putting this together. I want to welcome all of you here tonight. I'm going to bring Ali up to share a few words about the fund, and then we'll get this debate started. So thank you all for coming.
Good evening, New Haven. Welcome to the Mayoral Debate for 2023. This event, as usual, is hosted by the New Haven Democracy Fund. The Democracy Fund is the state's only public campaign financing program at the municipal level. This year, we have one participating candidate for the general election. And what participating means is that an individual will cap the amount of contributions that they receive. Instead of $1,000, they'll accept $445 maximum, and they will not accept contributions from special interests or political action groups. And in exchange, they receive a grant from us and some matching funds to help with their campaign. So Mayor Ellicott is the participating candidate on stage, and one of the requirements is that he has to participate in a public forum. So welcome. I'm going to hand this over to our moderator, Tom Green from the New Haven Independent, who's going to introduce the panelists and explain the rules of the debate. And I hope you all have an excellent time.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you everyone for coming to the last mayoral debate in an election year chock full of them. So my name is Tom Green. I am joined here by my incredible co-moderators, Norma Rodriguez-Reyes, the publisher of La Voz Hispana, and Babs Rawls-Ivy, the editor of Inner City News and host of Love Babs, Love Talk, like WNA Change Radio. So we have three candidates who are participating in tonight's debate. Thank you very much to all of you. Justin Ellicott, the current mayor and the Democratic and Working Families Party candidate, Wendy Hamilton, an unaffiliated candidate who's petitioning onto the ballot, and Tom Goldenberg, who is the Republican and Independent Party candidate in the November general election. So I will very quickly go through the ground rules. Everyone will have 2-minute opening statements. We'll start with the mayor, and then let's go down the line, the mayor, and then Wendy and Tom. Then each of us will ask a question of, alternate questions for the different candidates. The person asked the question will have 2 minutes to respond, and then the subsequent two candidates have 90 seconds to rebut. And then twice during the debate, the original respondent can opt for a 30-second clarification. So those are the rules. We'll see what happens, but it sounds pretty good to me. Okay, and the last thing I'll ask of all the candidates, and thank you for participating, is that you stay respectful, that you stay on topic, and you stay within the time limits. And I will be keeping time. So without further ado, Mayor, why don't you give your 2-minute remarks, and then we will go to Wendy, and then to Tom.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you to the Democracy Fund. This is, every time I've run for mayor, I participate in the Democracy Fund. I'm a big believer. Thank you to the Schubert, and good news, the Schubert just got $5 million from the state to renovate this facility. So congratulations to the Schubert. So I've been mayor for almost 4 years now, and we have accomplished as a city so much together. When you look at where we were in 2020 compared to where we are now, it is just remarkable how different this city is. We've been able to dramatically change the financial situation of this city, and we have done that together. We have seen our pilot payment in lieu of taxes payments go from $41 million annually to $90 million annually, thanks to so many partnerships, especially the leadership of the state legislature. We have seen Yale University's contribution to the city go from $13 to $23 million, thanks to the advocacy of so many people, especially Unite Here and other advocates. We have done this together. We have reimagined what it means to be publicly safe in this city for public safety by creating Elm City Compass, 2 individuals that show up with social work expertise and lived experience at the right place at the right time with the right skills to help our community. We have added 900 new and renovated affordable units with 900 more in the pipeline, and we have done this together. We have done so much as a community together, not to mention persevering through COVID. And you have two other candidates, Wendy, who's unaffiliated, and Tom, the Republican. And if tonight is like whatever the rhetoric has been over these past few months, you're going to hear a lot of negativity. We know what our challenges are in the city, and we have a lot more work to do in our city. But I encourage you to focus on what the potential is for our city, to embrace the positive, to confront the challenges head on, and we need to do this together. Thank you.
All right, Wendy, you've got 2 minutes to introduce yourself and make your pitch for your campaign.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And if you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. 2 cliches, but true. I have lived here since '83, worked for Yale for almost 30 years and saw how they treated their employees, rented all over town, and then bought a place. 4 blocks from City Hall. I don't need a salary, a bodyguard, or a trip to China. I don't need 3 tax increases in 4 years. What I need is justice, not a Justin. I am only asking for 2 years to show what can and should be done to make a dent in the poverty and corruption here. Everything is broken or missing except the speed bumps. It is discouraging to note the apathy, denial, and cynicism of New Haven residents who allow the audacious and overwhelming white-collar crime by City Hall and others that has turned this town into a hellhole. No affordable housing, daily shootings, 1,000 homeless on the street, or in Mark Colville's backyard, lots of despair and ugliness, inadequate schools that do less well than schools in Mississippi, where kids learn to read by the 3rd grade. Here, more like the 12th grade.
That's 2 minutes, Wendy, so you can wrap up, and we'll move on to Tom.
If you like tax hikes and giving money to the rich, vote for Elliker. Another option is to cut stupid spending and enhance honest finances with me, while rescuing what we have left after Harp and Elliker.
Thank you, Wendy. You'll be able to go back to that during questions, but that's 2.5 minutes. All right, Tom Goldberg, your 2 minutes are starting now.
Hi, I'm Tom Goldenberg. I'm a registered Democrat. I was endorsed by the Independent Party and the Republican Party. First, I'd like to share what I'd like to see for the city, what my vision is. I want to see an education system where our kids can read at grade level. I want to see every school in our school system have an active parent organization. I want a city where we invest in our youth, where we have a community center in every community, where we bring back the Youth SNAP program to work with the disengaged youth and prevent crime. I want a city where we fill our 100 vacancies in the police department, where we bring back block watches, walking beats, where we work with the community to get illegal guns off the street and reduce crime and violence. I want a city where we're creating jobs, where we're creating opportunities, where we're supporting our small businesses. And I want a city where taxpayers, for once, can get a break and we freeze taxes. So that's the city that I would like to see. And yes, I have the qualifications to make it happen. For the last several years, I've been a management consultant at McKinsey. I've worked with, across the United States, major US cities, state governments, on issues that affect New Haven. I've worked with more than half a dozen superintendents in our state on challenges in our education system. I've worked with affordable housing developers on how they can make their offerings more environmentally sustainable. But I also used to be a bartender across the street. So I know what it's like to work a working class job and to not know where the rent's gonna come from. And I also am a New Haven public school student as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Democracy Fund, for hosting this. All right, now we'll get to the main part, Babs. I'm going to ask you to ask the first question. If that's on, you can use that, or I can.
Okay, is this on? You can hear me? Of course you can hear me. Woo, now for the swimsuit competition.
We'll have 2 minutes to respond, and then the other 2 candidates will have 90 seconds each to respond.
Mayor Elliker, what are the top priorities for education? This is easy, you should be able to answer this in your sleep. What are the top priorities for education? And how will you use your role on the Board of Education to affect change?
So the superintendent, Dr. Madeline Negron, who recently started, and I shared the top priorities, which are focused on absenteeism and literacy. And I've been deeply impressed at how much she has just dived into the work that is already being done in our New Haven public schools. We have embraced the science of reading and implemented new curriculum. We've implemented new math curriculum as well. Our absenteeism rates are dramatically down compared to last year, and Dr. Negron has made it abundantly clear. If you are a public school parent, you received calls from her, robocalls that show the progress we are making on absenteeism. We, in addition, are doing work outside the schools with our tutoring initiative. We've tutored over 400 students this summer in our partnership with New Haven Reads and LEAP and the United Way, Inspire Communities, and many other organizations. I tutored myself, and we're already seeing results that are positive on the tutoring program on reading and math. We have a lot more work to do here, and but we are making incredible progress in this area.
Now, Wendy and Tommy, Wendy first, and then Tommy, you each have 90 seconds to respond to Babs' question about education priorities.
We support a useless Board of Ed, a surplus of expensive supervisors, school supervisors, all political patrons, and the schools are locked down with several armed guards, plus the metal detectors. Next thing coming will be barbed wire and SWAT, in case the kids get unruly. I intend to pay the teachers starting pay $100,000 a year, and if they live here, no property tax. And I will fund the schools, they're top of the list.
So I mentioned that my vision for education is one in which our kids can read at grade level and where every school has an active parent organization. Right now we have 44 schools. You may be surprised to hear that only 8 have active parent organizations. That means that there are 36 schools currently without an engaged group of parents. So as mayor, I will establish a very hands-on initiative to make sure that every school has a parent organization that is active, that we establish a parent university to give parents the resources they need. My other focus on education is going to be on career readiness. So we know that we have an engagement problem with students. That's why we were last in the state with over 60% of our students chronically absent. I want students to be engaged at a younger age as to what are the career pathways available, because I believe that you can't be what you don't see. Let's make it easier to expose them to trades, profession, entrepreneurship, and then in high school, opportunities for internships, apprenticeships, certifications, so that even without going to college, they can get a quality job after high school. That's my plan for education.
Now Norma has a question for Tom.
Okay. Shall the City of New Haven approve and adopt all charter changes as recommended by the Charter Revision Commission and approved by the Board of Alders, in which that talks about a 4-year term for the mayor, a 4-year term for the Board of Alders, and increase in salary? Do you agree with this question, the ballot call question, yes or no, for the charter revision, with many of the voters knowing what those changes are being proposed?
Thank you, Norma. That's an important question. I will be voting no on the referendum question, and I ask everyone, regardless of who you vote for mayor or alder, to also come and vote, because this is an important question. Would I have voted yes if it were for 4-year terms for mayor? Absolutely. I think that's a very reasonable thing to ask for. Would I vote for 4-year terms for alders? Absolutely not. We have 30 alders. We had 4 special elections in the last year under the current 2-year terms. Those special elections are often uncontested and chosen by a select few of political machine people. We have also seen many uncontested aldermanic elections. We see alders, a significant amount of alders that do not attend or regularly attend required meetings. So we're going to extend their term from 2 to 4 years. Is going to be remove our accountability. And I'll be honest, I have to call it for what it is. It's a power grab. It's condescending to the voters to think that this commission needs to make it simple for them and not have 2 separate questions, because yes, I would vote for 4 years for mayor, but I would not vote 4 years for alder, and I think the voters should make that decision, not the commission. Thank you.
Right. So Wendy will go next, and then Justin. So Wendy, you have 90 seconds to respond.
Okay, quick answer. I'm voting no for the changes. I only need 2 years. 4 years, in 4 years, we've had 3 tax increases.
Justin, you have 90 seconds.
So if you watch Facebook, you know that the Republicans in New Haven are all in for no. It's not surprising, because Republicans don't like governance if you look at what's going on in Washington right now, and effective governance. And that is why there's an advocacy effort here to vote no. 4-year terms is what Waterbury has, is what Hartford has, is what Bridgeport has, is what Hamden just adopted. 4-year terms helps us govern. Elections are important. Elections are really important. But governance is deeply important as well. In 2-year terms, we're always in election cycle. Frankly, the number of people in this room should give you an indication that we need elections less frequently, because we need opportunities for people to get really engaged in our politics. We need to spend less time raising money and being negative about campaigning and more time focused on governing. So I am all in for the charter revisions, and I really encourage you to support them as well. Let's bring ourselves in line with the overwhelming majority of cities across the nation.
Okay, so each candidate will have 2 opportunities over the course of the debate to have a 30-second clarification at the end after everyone's spoken. It looks like Tom wants to use the first of his 30-second clarification. So Tom, it's all yours.
So Mayor Elicker is going to continue to call me a Republican and dismiss my ideas because of some party affiliation. I think that we are all smart enough to judge ideas by the content and rather by the label. And we can stand here all day and talk about labels, but this is time to unify the city. That is what my campaign is about. If Republicans come to me and they say they want to support, I will say, yes, I want to work with you. If independents come to me and say, I want to work with you, yes, I will work with you. And the same thing with Democrats. So that's my position. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Well, you're welcome to use your 30 seconds.
Is that a yes or a no?
All right, yes. So this is 1 and 2 30-second.
There are only 2 Republicans that live in New Haven.
I'll respond as well. Tom, you took the R. You took the R. You could have chosen a pathway as an independent, but you chose to associate yourself with a party that is anti-immigrant, that is anti-climate, that is anti-choice. that is promoting conspiracy theories that attacked our nation on January 6th. You chose the Republican Association, and I think you should own it.
I think I need to respond to that.
This is the last one.
I will take it for another one. I have a feeling that more
All right,
facts
so
are
let's
going
go back to the regular scheduled program. So Wendy, I have a question for you about Yale and town-gown relations. You worked for Yale for a while. You've been outspoken about Yale needing to contribute more. You know, the Ellicott administration struck a new deal with Yale that the Board of Alders signed off on in April of 2022. There's a number of provisions that increases Yale's contribution to the city, around $10 million a year for 6 years, roughly. Lets Yale design a more pedestrian-friendly High Street and a number of other things. And also, Yale President Peter Salovey is about to step down at the end of this academic year after 10 years in the university. So my questions for you, Wendy, are what do you think of the deal that the Ellicott administration and the city struck with Yale, and what would you do if mayor to create a fairer relationship between the university and Yale, and between the university and the city? So you've got 2 minutes to respond to Yale stuff.
Yale and City Hall have created over many decades, Yale and City Hall have created a plantation of poverty here. Yale has surrounded itself with an undervalued, undereducated population, readily available to do the low-pay, less respected work for the schools and the hospitals. And now as the economy takes a terrible turn, rising taxes and rents have shifted desperate people out of town where they are forced to commute any way they can, while villains get rich on our public land, including Yale. Yale owns billions in land, property, businesses, 3 world-class museums, a publishing house, half the hospitals and clinics in Connecticut, all the patents from their students and professors, and much more. The $42 billion endowment is just a fraction of what they have, and that includes federal grants which your taxes paid for. It is a financial instrument like Chase Manhattan or Morgan Stanley, and its corporate behavior is just as ugly. Yale holds jobs over our heads, a further cruelty in this god-awful economy. Their indifference to city poverty is outrageous, staggering. Who will change this? Not these two. I have 2 minutes to tell you.
We have 10 seconds left.
I need 2 minutes to tell you what I will do to Yale.
2 minutes? Yeah. All right, and Justin next, and then we'll end with Tom. So Justin, you have 90 seconds to speak to defend the deal that your administration struck with Yale, and also speak to what you think would be a better, fairer relationship between the city and the university.
Sure. So for decades, people have said Yale needs to give Yale needs to give more. Yale needs to give more. And every year, Yale would give like $500,000 more, maybe $1 million more for decades. And finally, we all worked together to advocate and push Yale to be accountable. We had tough conversations, and Yale's contribution went from 13 to $23 million annually, a significant jump. I agree 100% with Wendy that Yale has to do more, and we're going to continue to pressure Yale to do more. It's important that we also had, as a part of this deal, pedestrianizing High Street, a block of High Street, not selling that asset, so we have that leverage in the future because the city continues to own that asset, and the creation of the Center for Inclusive Growth. We're interviewing leaders for that institution that we're going to create together with Yale to help increase Yale and the city's collaboration, ensuring that our city grows in an inclusive way and everyone has an opportunity to thrive.
You can respond for 30 seconds, but first Tom gets to have 90 seconds, and then you can have 30 seconds.
Yes or no?
Not yet. Not yet. But Tom, you have 90 seconds.
Yale is an asset to our community, and part of my plan for the city is how do we leverage the research and the talent that's coming out of Yale to create more jobs for the city that will benefit our residents. That's why I put forward a jobs program where we can invest heavily in the emerging sectors of climate technology, biotechnology, and healthcare innovation. We can create tens of thousands of jobs in the greater New Haven area over the next 10 years. And this is the work that I used to do as a consultant with other cities. I believe I mentioned I got over $100 million for one U.S. city to create a job creation program. So I think in the terms of creating our economy, diversifying our employer base, there's a lot we can do to partner more with Yale. In terms of investing in the city, I would like to see more joint ventures with Yale on infrastructure projects like our parks. I believe that our parks can be even more world-class, and I think that there are opportunities to find stuff that is both within the interest of Yale and the city. If you ask me specifically about the mayor's claims about getting more money from Yale, listen, I mean, we went through a number of years where the city was selling streets to Yale. The mayor says this isn't selling a street for more money, but they got the street and he got more money, so I don't know what else to call it.
That's 90 seconds.
So it's not a free giveaway by Yale.
And that's it,
Something was
Tom.
given. Thank you.
Thank you. And Wendy, if you want 30 seconds more, you're welcome to.
These two will kiss Yale's ass. I am going to kick it. And I promise you, they will pay half the city budget every year with a signed contract, or you can fire me. They should be paying half the city budget. They own 65% of the land.
10 seconds left.
We are 20 square miles, and it's not an elephant in the room. It is the room. It is the town.
And that's your time limit.
It is the state.
Thank you, Wendy. That's.
I'm sick of being screwed by Yale.
Thank you, Wendy. Now let's go over to you, Dan. You can ask your next question, and pick whoever you like. Say what you want.
Oh, these things in church. Mayor, what plans do you have to address the growing unaffordability of families that families are facing around housing in this city?
Yeah, so if you ask me what the priorities are for the city, I think housing is one of the top priorities, and it's a challenge that the cities around the nation are facing right now. We are doing so much on housing, and we need to do so much more on housing. We've brought over 900 renovated and new units online. We have over 900 in the pipeline, and you know a lot of these units if you drive around the city in new developments. Beulah on Dixville Avenue, Jerry Poole has a project, West Rivership, that is at the end of Route 34 in the Boulevard. Beacon Communities is another, the list goes on. In addition to a lot of new units coming online, we've worked with the Alders to implement a lot of new proposals. For example, we have a new inclusionary zoning law that requires new developments to have a certain percentage of affordable housing, and we've pushed the limits on what it means to be affordable, moving that number down so that we can have more people being able to afford those units. We've added more landlord accountability. The Alders just approved our proposal to increase fines on landlords that have egregious violations to $2,000 an instance. We've passed a natural a person's resolution or ordinance that will require landlords to associate their name with the property. We've created a land bank so that we can play more actively in the market to acquire strategic properties before an outside property owner does. We've improved our accountability with landlords by bringing them to court. Ocean Management has been to court every few weeks because we're really pushing that. We have a lot more work to do in this area, but we have made an incredible amount of progress. And one other thing is, a part of housing is around ensuring the people that are homeless have support. The Alders just approved our proposal to purchase a hotel so that we can add additional dignified space for individuals experiencing homelessness to stabilize and then transition to long-term housing.
2 minutes. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to Tom next, and then to Wendy speaking to.
Do I get it? My turn?
Well, let's have Tom first, and then Wendy. Tom, you have 90 seconds.
So absolutely, we have to address this issue head on. We have families that are getting pushed out of their neighborhoods. We have families that can't afford rent. First and foremost, we need to increase housing supply. So like another former mayoral challenger, Liam Brennan, said, I agree with his policies around streamlining zoning, making it easier for developers to build more housing supply. We currently have, across from the train station, 13 acres of land that has been sitting there for 8 years, and the mayor has refused to work with the developer on creating housing. That's it. We know that there are more than 440 low-income housing vouchers that are sitting ready to be used, but the city has not moved. So when we talk about creating housing supply, let's do some common sense approaches to building more housing and more affordable housing. The second thing for renters, and this affects property owners as well, is the property taxes. We've seen in our 3 black and brown communities, that's Fairhaven, The Hill, and New Hallville, have had to pay a disproportionate share of the increase in taxes. It's 40% over the last 2 years. I mean, Tony Harp, when Justin Elliker went against Tony Harp in 2019, we had an 11% tax increase, and that was a big thing. So I want to freeze taxes. I also want to work with the state. I want to get a reasonable rent cap so that people aren't pushed out of their neighborhoods.
That's 90 seconds.
And I want to work with the state to get more supportive housing. And I will fight for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Wendy, speaking to affordability for families.
Yale and the state are not going to be helping us at all. Now we're talking about housing. The rents are crazy. I live in a tear down, and my neighbor gets a 1-bedroom for $2,000 a month you can barely afford. Most neighborhoods, the rents are just crazy. Tyvek Towers, however, City Crossing, Double Crossing, Cardboard Courtyards, Plywood Plaza, Dog Park Palace. Have any of you toured any of those buildings? Well, I have, and a lot of them are half empty because nobody can afford those stupid rents. And they are redlining, and I can prove it. You can't get into those developments that get our land for cheap and also the tax abatements unless you have a computer, and they want everything, your social, your account numbers, your credit card, everything. And they want you to sign a 50-page lease. It takes 2 hours to do that. Now, I offered a $25,000 cashier's check to the WIT and then to the Audubon, and they both said no to an upfront 25 grand. So then I called Mandy, and they said, fuck yeah, we'll take it.
Wendy, that's your time.
But, all right, pardon the French, Henri, but there's a $35 application fee, and you have to use a computer to get into a Mandy flat.
Thank you, Wendy. That's your time. All right, Norma, it's up to you.
Okay, this one is for Mayor. In March of 2020, when the St. Patrick's Parade, okay, and St. Patrick's Day Parade, rain, snow, sleet, no matter what, it's never been canceled. Yet, in 2020, it was canceled. And at that time, I realized that we were going to uncharted territory, which COVID hit. So I would like to know, what plans do you have to cover the money that the city will stop receiving from the federal aid, the amount of $115 million for the city services and $100,000 for the Board of Education? What plans do you have to cover that money that we will not be receiving?
So we had a lengthy community process as to how we were going to spend as a community the significant amount of money that we received through American Rescue Plan. And that guided our thinking, but we were very deliberate at using the funds in a way that wouldn't increase our long-term costs. So we put, for example, $5 million into into the parks. That is infrastructure improvements in the parks. That is not a bunch of new salaries that we'll have to continue on afterwards. We've put $8 million into career pathways in vocational school because I too believe that we need to make sure that all of our kids have a promise, not just ones that choose to go to college. And we put a lot of that funding directly into programs that are doing job training now. We've put money into home buyer programs to create more opportunities for people that are just on the cusp of making a down payment on a home but can afford the mortgage in the long term, so we have more New Haven residents that are purchasing home. So we focused our efforts and the funding not deliberately on not creating long-term liabilities. I want to address a lot of other things that have been said that have just not been true. Not selling a street means not selling a street. High Street is owned by the city of New Haven and will continue to be so. There are not 100 vacancies in the New Haven Police Department. As Mr. Goldenberg said, there are 64 vacancies. USTAT is not over, as Mr. Goldenberg continues to say. He misleads people in saying that somehow we deliberately increased taxes on black and brown neighborhoods, which is just unethical to make people believe that there was some deliberate increase in certain neighborhoods. That is not how tax revaluation works, and it's really unfortunate. The fact that someone's promising to freeze taxes and do all these other things is just wrong. So I wanted to use some of my time to correct the record on some things I said previously. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll go Tom and then Wendy. So Tom speaking.
Ask anybody in the Budget Office or Finance Committee where the money is, how much do we have, how much do we owe. You can't get a straight answer. I have written now 2 letters to the FBI asking for forensic accounting investigation of both of those groups, the Budget Office, 4 or 5 people, and the Finance Committee, who seem to be clueless. As far as the, now, if I get elected, we're getting a new budget director, and I have approached the Open Door Foundation, which is unloading 1,000 honest people, philanthropists, accountants, you name it. They're losing their jobs at Open Door. I'm asking for one of them to come and be our accountant. We need an honest, transparent budget office.
Thank you, Wendy. And Tom, I think the question is about what happens when the federal pandemic relief money runs out, and generally how the city should spend the influx of money that we've gotten to recover from COVID.
I think it's an important question, how we manage our city finances. There are a number of positions that are funded by some of this temporary funding and that will not have that funding. I also want to point out that we haven't had a controller for more than 3 years. I don't think we've ever seen that in the city of New Haven. And the mayor has asked the Board of Alders that can he be allowed to hire someone for that role outside of the city, not just for that administrative role, but for other administrative roles. I think this is a fundamental difference, and I think we'll see lots of differences in ideology. I believe that New Havens are capable. I've hired all New Haveners on my campaign staff, unlike the mayor who brought people in from Washington, D.C. and Chicago. And I see no need to go outside of the city of New Haven to hire a top administrative role. And I certainly will not take 3.5 years to fill that role. Maybe that's why you have to ask, is that why $6 million went missing without an explanation? Is that why we paid the largest settlement ever in the history of the United States? Our taxes went up? And no, I never said that the mayor deliberately rose the taxes, but you're the mayor. I expect you to hold yourself to a level of accountability, and if I were in that role, I would hold myself accountable for the suffering of other people. Because yes, the taxes in the budget, sir, you do control, and you should take accountability. Thank you.
It's time. I've got a question for Tom, and it is about harm reduction in public health. So New Haven has long been a pioneer in harm reduction public health interventions to make sure that some of city residents who are struggling the most don't get really sick and die. I mean, the 1980s needle exchange fund, the best example of that really worked at reducing instances of HIV/AIDS. Now, you've spent a lot of your time, especially recently on the campaign trail, criticizing the At Foundation Methadone Clinic on Congress Avenue, and also criticizing the mayor's, I would say, is early stage considerations of having a safe use site downtown. I know you quibble with that framing, but you've spoken out a lot against safe use supervised injection sites as a way to counter opioid overdose. So, Tom, my question for you is why spend so much time on this issue, and what do you think is the most effective treatment for people struggling with addiction and opioid addiction?
Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate the question. And I'd like to set the record straight of my views on this topic and what are some of the considerations. First of all, the opioid crisis is very real. People are dying. We absolutely do need to have compassion. We need to have a response. I think myself and the mayor both agree on that. I think there's a difference in ideology in terms of how we do it and what we consider when we make decisions. I'm a believer in community input. I believe that if we are going to do in a different direction, if as mayor I want to open a safe injection site or I want to give property to the App Foundation, I should talk to the relevant parties involved. That's my core belief. And I think that's why I've spoken out against this so loudly, is that I feel that communities are not being heard on this issue. We saw that the App Foundation moved into the Black residential area of New Hallville, and nary a word was mentioned even to that district's alder. The mayor then went and said that the city had nothing to do with it. But later, after about 7 months of petitioning for city emails, we found that the city was deeply, deeply involved with APT Foundation. So this is not just about the response to the opioid crisis, it is how we deal with our communities, and especially our communities of color. They have been disrespected by this administration. I have no other word for it. And so I am here standing for transparency, for community engagement, and yes, I do have some positions. As for a safe injection site, it's a place where anyone in the state can come and use heroin, fentanyl, crack cocaine, and use it without any penalties. I don't think it's a good idea. And I don't come to that conclusion lightly. I did my research. I visited Harlem. Every city council candidate in Harlem is opposed to the safe injection site that's been there for 2 years.
And Tom, I'm actually going to, thank you for hitting the 2 minutes. I'm going to give you 10 seconds more to respond to the second part of my question, which I didn't hear an answer to, which is about what do you think is the most effective treatment for people struggling?
Well, I've talked to a lot of, listen, I rely on experts for this. There are a lot of experts in public health. I'm very blessed to have these people in my family, my wife among them. I think that we need to first satisfy the need for treatment. And we don't have enough treatment beds. We don't have supportive housing. Our housing support is broken, and we need more health services. So that's where the $600 million in settlement funds from the state, I think, should go.
Thank you. Hey, Justin, can you respond to the question of At Foundation Methadone Clinic on Congress Avenue, safe use sites downtown, and also what you think the most effective treatment to...
You know, honestly, Mr. Goldenberg has had press conference after press conference after press conference, and frankly, it is so unethical what he is promoting. He is constantly creating some conspiracy where there is not a conspiracy, saying that somehow he cares about community input when before he was running for mayor, I never saw the guy at any community event at all. To push these narratives when people in our city are deeply struggling with addiction. We're losing residents every week to opioids. Health experts are guiding our policies and our thinking. And whenever we do something new, we significantly engage the community, and I have done that all along. I have done that all along, and I continue to be accessible. I give my cell phone out to everyone. I try to go to every event possible. And whenever we have things that we want to implement, we engage the community, collect feedback, change course if the community wants us to go in a different direction. So misconstruing over and over and over what we're trying to do to help the most vulnerable people and that health experts are saying is the right thing to do is just unethical.
And since there's 10 seconds left, should there be a safe injection site downtown? Is your administration?
You know, I have said again and again and again, I think this is something that we should explore. There are many cities around the world that have safe consumption sites that help dramatically decrease the number of people dying in our communities and divert people towards resources so they get help. This actually reduces the amount of issues that we see out in the streets because people are coming in so that we can provide support for our community members.
Thank you for the response. And Wendy, you have 90 seconds to talk about substance use treatment and what we should do about it.
Is an illness, not a crime. Most Americans are addicted to something. We need more rehab. We need more community empathy. I really have to say, I go along with what he said. We need help. Now, I have witnessed patient dumping at Yale New Haven Hospital. When some of those addicts show up with various complaints, including addiction problems, I took Mark Cochran there the year he died. He had heart disease, scabies, and an alcohol problem. I was hoping they'd keep him for 2 weeks. They kept him for less than 2 days, and I have seen other examples of this by Yale and talked to plenty of addicts on the street. We need kindness, not jail, not prison.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, Babs, back to you for your next question.
Wendy, what does leading this beautiful, diverse city through an equity and inclusion lens look like to you?
Well, you're a soprano, so he's writing it down. Diversity. I am a New Yorker, but I have lived here since 1983. When I first came here, my last name is Hamilton. I got a letter from the Connecticut Ku Klux Klan inviting me to join. I should have kept that letter because nobody believes me when I tell them about this. Later on, working at Yale, a couple of people told me I was the first Jew they had ever met at the hospital, which is ridiculous. New Haven has the first American Holocaust memorial. Now, I mentioned the fact that Yale has propagated a plantation of poverty here in neglected neighborhoods behind the campus and the hospital. I have seen racism, misogyny. I have no words to describe how bad things have been here. And yes, I feel ashamed and guilty, and being a white boomer, I'm part of the white supremacy. But I believe in black reparations, affirmative action. I am going to make our housing, our rental housing over 6 units, half Section 8. We will be the first city in the United States to force integration. That will get us into international news.
And Wendy, that's your time. Thank you. Maybe let's go to Tom next. What is leading the city with a
Sure.
focus on equity?
So I would like to say, as mayor, and this is something I've spoken about throughout the campaign, I will be committed to building wealth in the Black and brown communities. Through policy, through discrimination, we see a massive wealth gap in these communities. And we have to address it head on. It's not time for excuses. So I've laid out a specific plan for this. We need to revise our city contracting so that local black and brown contractors have an opportunity to build wealth. We need to revitalize our small business resource center to be a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs to get connected to advisors, to mentors and sources of capital. We need to reinvest in our Dixwell commercial corridor and our Grand Avenue commercial corridor and really help them live up to their cultural legacy as vibrant centers. And we need to foster entrepreneurship training in our schools. I want every student to have access to entrepreneurship training because we need to foster the spirit of entrepreneurship, of ownership, and we need to build wealth in these communities. That's my position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a rebuttal?
Let Justin will go first, and then you can.
Sure. So we have a law that requires minority hiring. We have a program, DNA of the Entrepreneur, that is a one-stop shop that helps train people that are interested in entrepreneurship. We're investing millions of dollars in the Dixwell Avenue corridor. We just got a $6 million grant from the state for Grand Avenue revitalization. To your specific, so we're doing those things. To your specific question, number one, it starts with our values in being a city that unapologetically champions that everyone is welcome here, everyone is supported here. Number two, we've got to follow that up with action. We have invested tens of millions of dollars into job creation, the creation of vocational education programs, into helping small minority and women-owned businesses. We've partnered with the Community Foundation to even expand the support that we are giving to small minority businesses. We're investing a significant amount of funding, $675,000, into expanding creatives support in our city, and that's helped us expand Black Wall Street to give Black entrepreneurs a start at a new business. We've gone from about 15 businesses last year to 100 businesses. We've funded the Puerto Ricans United Festival on the Green. So it's about our values, and it's about following up with our values with real funding and energy to support people, so New Haven is a place where everyone has an opportunity to thrive.
Thank you. You have 30 seconds, Wendy.
He had it right. Racism and wealth gap. The two biggest problems in this country that may just end us as a country. As far as wealth gap, I offer you this from the visitor center given out by the Friends of the Chamber of Commerce. You want to see the wealth gap?
10 seconds.
Check out the data in this. It'll freak you out, okay? This city, like Waterbury, Hartford,
And that's your time.
Bridgeport, we're a poor Black city, and there's a reason for that, because the state is run by a bunch of constipated old white guys who have
Thank you, Wendy. That is your time.
urban reality.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Norma, you're up.
This one's for Wendy. You all took different approaches to financing your campaigns. Why did you choose this method of fundraising?
And so, Wendy, I believe you're not fundraising, right? So why did you choose not to raise money for this kid?
Did you hear the question?
No.
So
We all chose different ways to finance your campaign. Why did you choose
Okay,
the
so
way
this
that you
is
did?
for me.
Yeah.
yes.
Why? Because I didn't want to spend $50,000 on a primary. The state and the country makes it very difficult for honest, normal people to run for office. Now, luckily, all I had to do was get 200 signatures and swear not to spend more than $1,000, which is, you need a lot more than $1,000, but I only spent about $500 on business cards. At least I didn't litter the down. But the whole structure is corrupt. And the machine here does not want people like me running for office. Mr. Shafiq Abdul-Sabbar already got sidelined by signatures, which I doubt were looked at carefully by the registration office. I had to go to Hartford to correct, the city clerk made a mistake with my 180 signatures. I had to get to Hartford to make sure I got on the ballot. And I was on the ballot when he was. We both signed up the same day. Why? I would have been signed up a lot earlier, but the city clerk said, no, you can't come until after January.
10 seconds left.
Yeah. So you're looking at possibly the last honest working class candidate ever to run in this city.
And that's 2 minutes. Thank you, Wendy. So Justin, why did you decide to participate in the Democracy Fund?
I'm a big believer in clean government, and New Haven has created a system that there's nowhere else in the state that caps the amount of money and incentivizes us to collect donations from New Haven residents. My campaign has collected 10 times the number of New Haven donations as Mr. Goldenberg's campaign. 10 times the number of New Haven donations. He's given himself a $55,000 loan and is collecting $1,000 donations from people. 79% of his donors live outside New Haven. That seems to me to be the wrong approach to how to govern in our city. We need to be driven by New Haven residents donating and supporting campaigns at small donation value.
Tom, why did you decide not to participate in the Democracy Fund and contribute so much of your own money to your own campaign?
Sure, so I understand the stated premise of the Democracy Fund is to remove the influence of special interests. Justin Elliker says that he's running a clean campaign, but let's just look at the campaign financials. I have a list of some of the donors. Carter Winstanley, major developer in New Haven, gave the maximum amount, $445. Lynn Fusco, major developer in New Haven, gave the maximum amount, $445. Carolyn Cohn, a city contractor who gets paid by the city, an attorney, gave the maximum amount. 35 city employees. Well, if I were a city employee, would I feel intimidated to give to keep my job? Maybe. 3 directors from the APT, the APT Foundation, which received a $10 million, the promise of a $10 million property by the mayor. I could go on and on, folks. Randy Salvatore, Eve Joseph, the lobbyist firm DePino Nunez. This mayor is beholden and propped up by special interests. And he wants to attack me for believing in myself and putting in my own money when it's my first time running for elected office. I think that's the right thing to do if I'm going to ask people to put in money. So if you want to attack me for putting my own money when you're grabbing money from all these developers and special interests, I don't know what to say.
10 seconds.
Thank you. Oh, and 5 seconds. He says that I'm misleading and unethical. I bring my receipts. I have emails on everything that I've said.
That's your time.
Thank you.
I don't know what the reference to I don't know what the reference to receipts is, but if people need backing up. You cherry pick a handful of donors when I have had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of community members donate to my campaign. People that are working in the city and even do work for the city believe in the direction of the city as well. It is illegal to ask city employees for funding, and I have never ever done that, and I would not. But this to denigrate a program that many people deeply care about and work very hard to create, when you just opted not to participate in it because you couldn't raise enough money by participating in it to even qualify for it, is just it's just wrong.
That's time.
My 30 seconds.
Sure. But 30 seconds, and then I think that's the last year.
So just to be clear, I'm not denigrating the Democracy Fund. I think it's a great institution. It's the only of its kind in Connecticut. I am saying that Mayor Elliker's claim to be running a clean election is misleading. His claim that he's running against a Republican challenger is misleading. He says I'm the one that's misleading by saying that people have been hit by tax increases when it's the truth. He says I'm being unethical when I point out that he has a plan that 3 months from now would have a safe injection in New Haven.
That's your time.
That I'm unethical.
That's
I'm
your
sorry,
time.
Mayor, but you're misleading.
That's your time. All right.
Okay, self-funding. He seems to have self-funded. I self-funded because how can you ask for money from people who are piss poor? Most of this city is living in poverty, and this says so. This has all the data about people's incomes in the county. All the towns, including ours, we're at the bottom of the barrel. The average income here is about $24,000 before taxes.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, that's my turn. I have a question for Justin about crime. You've been campaigning generally on crime going down, and indeed, year over year, the violent crime statistics are down. Shootings are down, shots fired are down, aggravated assaults are down, but murders, homicides, are significantly up this year. 19 homicides so far this year in comparison to 11. And I think that one could arguably say that's one of the most important, if not the most important number when looking at crime data. And so why do you think that homicides are so significantly up, from 11 at this time last year to 19 now? And what is your responsibility as mayor to make sure that fewer people are being shot?
So I feel a deep responsibility as mayor to ensure that we don't lose members of our community. I call every family, I go to the scene of every homicide, I call every family that has lost a loved one, I go to the wakes, and we in New Haven have created a beautiful space on Valley Street to reflect on gun violence and gather families together to talk about how we can confront this challenge. We had last year at this time 106 people shot, and this year, at this time last year, and this year we've had 80 people shot. But tragically, of those 80, 19 have died. And unfortunately, there's an element of randomness when you are shot as to whether you die or not. If someone shoots you in a certain spot in your body, or if you're closer to the hospital or farther away from the hospital, those impact those things. But every person lost is a person from our community, oftentimes very young, that will never be with our community again. So to the specific question about a change in the number of people that have died, there's unfortunately an element of randomness to that, even though it is deeply tragic. Although overall, the number of people that are shot has gone down. And that is not a victory lap at all. We have so much more work to do, and we are doing much of that work. We have put millions into putting new cameras into the city, which have helped us solve 18 homicides this year, which is unprecedented. We have increased our funding to violence intervention programs, street outreach workers, Project Safe Neighborhood, Project Longevity. We have increased the amount of investment in our community, because ultimately we are not going to solve gun violence through policing, even though we are doing a lot on policing. But we're going to solve gun violence by investing in people's future, in job creation programs, in education, in the things that people can use to have a pathway that is not going down the road of gun violence.
Thank you. Wendy, how about you next? Speaking to violent crime generally down, homicides are up.
Okay. We have to make a dent in white-collar crime in order to decrease street crime. The city sits on 4 pillars: teachers, cops, fire, and public works. Without these folks, we have a college campus surrounded by chaos. I intend to raise the teachers and the cops to $100,000 starting pay, and if they live here, no property tax. I will flush out useless admin, consultants, committees, political hacks, and patrons. Union civil servants will remain, but some may get reassigned and have to answer the phones. In the meantime, buy some Kevlar, pepper spray, and a big dog.
Thank you, Wendy.
So, I believe that everyone in this city deserves safety. I want to share a story. A man is there, Francesco. I got to know him during the campaign. This was when I was caucusing for the independent nomination. Francesco is blind. He's a father. He happens to live in the New Hallville neighborhood. And he's gone through a lot of challenges that I've learned about as I got to know him. He's been kidnapped. He's been assaulted. He's been robbed. And I think when we talk about this issue on this stage, I think there is, again, a difference between the way I see it and the way the mayor sees it. I believe that every neighborhood we should protect the quality of life. That when it comes to things like drug dealing, illegal drug use, street ATV takeovers, prostitution, that we need to enforce that quality of life. There needs to be consequences. And unfortunately, we haven't seen that. And so when we go to certain neighborhoods in Fairhaven, in the Hill, these things have taken over, and these neighborhoods are not safer because of it. Again, I go to the safe injection site. You're creating an open market for illegal drugs. Quality of life is going to deteriorate. So I want to bring back walking beats, block watches. I'm going to bring back youth stat. I'm going to fill the vacancies in the police department. We're going to work with the community to get illegal guns off the street and reduce crime and violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Justin,
Yeah, so we are addressing those things. We work closely with the DEA, and they've done multiple busts of drug dealers. We typically don't arrest addicts, but we arrest drug dealers, and that's been consistent all along. We have dramatically improved our responses to street takeovers. We have stopped East Coasting, which is an event that regularly came to New Haven and took over our streets, and through a lot of creative problem solving and accountability, we address them. We've increased fines to ATVs, taken 33 off the streets this year, and increased some of the laws to hold them more accountable. So it's just not accurate to say that we don't care about quality of life and are not addressing it.
Thank you, Justin. All right, and we are at 1 hour and 10 minutes. We've got an hour and a half to do this, so I think we're going to do 2 more questions for Babs and Norma, and then we'll end with 2-minute closing statements from each person. So, Babs, your final question of the night to whoever you'd like.
Mayor, tell us about a time you failed, and what did you learn from it?
So I think one of the things that I've reflected on is on opening schools after COVID, or not after COVID, but during the height of COVID. And New Haven opened schools later than pretty much every community in the state. And while I supported opening schools earlier than some of my colleagues, I've reflected on, are there things that I could have done differently to engage my colleagues on the Board of Alders to move that from a 4-3 vote against to support for opening the schools. And oftentimes, as mayor, there are so many things going on that it is just, you have to be very deliberate about putting aside time while there's all these fires happening to sit down with someone, listen to what their concerns are, and really engage with responding to those concerns. And I worry that our kids were impacted by us, and there was a lot of community support for keeping the schools closed, but I worry that our kids were impacted by us not opening schools as quickly as we could have.
Thank you. And Mayor, the 4-3 vote was by the Board of Education.
Correct.
All right, Tom, something you failed at and what you learned?
I kind of believe in the saying that it's not a failure unless you learn from it. And I think that's been kind of my life story. I certainly have had things that I would consider failures. I started a business. It ultimately wasn't successful, but I learned a lot through that process. And I think that's been like my story. And I didn't get to share a lot about myself, but I spent a number of years in India. I was there rebuilding villages. I came back, I became a tech entrepreneur. And the thing that drives me, and my parents are here, they will tell you, I want to make a dent in the universe. I want to have impact. And I grew up here. I was a New Haven public school student. I want to bring positive change to this city. And I will, partner with anyone to achieve that. And, so my parents are here. I grew up in West Haven in the Knox Street neighborhood. They're both retired teachers. And I think they taught me the importance of going out there and giving it your best shot. And whatever happens, you're going to learn. And I think that's what I'm doing. I believe that whether or not I win, I've brought some real issues to the attention of the people. And I think it will benefit the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Wendy, what's something you failed at and what did you learn?
No, there's more, but what is something you failed at and what did you learn from it?
I'm 74. I've had many failures. I remember them all with guilt and shame. As far as my career, I did the best I could, and I was honest. If you're not honest, you're out. And I expect that of my cops. Like I said, the 4 pillars, cops, teachers, firemen, and public works, they're all getting raises and respect. Unfortunately, their union bosses have refused to meet with me, but I've got a lot of solid plans for this city and for Yale. Unfortunately, I don't have enough time in 90 seconds to tell you what those plans are. You're just gonna have to take it, and I need your votes, okay? We need radical change here. We can't afford any more tax hikes.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, Norma, bring us home with the last question of the night.
Okay. When I was a little girl, you would see in Congress Supermarket the registration list of all the people that were registered to vote. And they would put it on the window and you would check and see if your name was there. Also, when you didn't pay your taxes, the New Haven Register used to publish a list of all the people that had not paid their taxes. In other countries, if you do not vote, you get fined. But they also have a lot of incentives. In order to renew your passport, they give you a discount. They give you discounts for all kinds of things in order for you to participate in the democratic process. So in the last election in New Haven, the Democratic primary, only 23% of the eligible voters actually voted. What can the city do to encourage more people to vote? And what do you think, and why do you think that they're not showing up?
Yes.
Mayor?
You're starting with me. So I think people don't show up for a number of reasons. People show up for presidential elections because there's a lot of noise around presidential elections, but in reality, local politics, I believe, impacts your life a lot more. But I don't think always people make that connection. There's just not as much advertising around these local elections. I think because we have elections so frequently, every 2 years, people don't show up as much. Frankly, with this election, I think oftentimes when things are going well, people don't show up, but when people desire a change, they come out in droves, and I think we've seen that in the past in other elections. But in this election, people haven't been as energized because they're not as excited about a change. I think it's a really important thing for us to engage people more, and that's all of us knocking on doors, that's engaging the community more in a lot of different ways. But I also think it is a part of the community feeling more responsibility to voice your concerns and encourage others to do the same. So I think that this goes 2 ways, that the institutions and entities around the city should really push people to engage more. I'm really happy that the table was outside to register people to vote. But I also think that in our schools, we need to promote it as more of one's responsibility as a citizen as well.
Thank you, Justin. Wendy, how do we get more people to vote?
Last election, only 23% voted, and the primary, only half of them, let's say 10% of New Haven voted, which is not a democracy. I don't know what you want to call it. The machine here, the Democratic machine, thinks they've got it in the bag, and Mr. Elicker is a done deal. Obviously, the two of us are not giving up, and we want to change. Finding a registered voter is like finding a diamond ring at the beach. And this is sad because millions of people died so we could vote, and now this country is a political mess. We failed miserably, locally, statewide, federally. We are dying politically.
Thank you, Wendy. Tom, you've got 9 seconds.
In terms of the specific question with the primary, it was a very low turnout. I think that people were not very enthusiastic about the choices. But I think this is a broader thing, which is a lot of people feel left out of party politics. Wendy alluded to the machine. I've also spoken. We have a large political party machine in New Haven. And even if you look nationally, the trend of social media has polarized parties, so there's a lot of people that don't feel represented on either side. And that's why when the Republican Party reached out to me saying, would you accept our endorsement? I said, this is a space I want to claim. The people that are not on either side, but in the center, standing for problem solving. And I said to them, the mayor wants to accuse me of affiliating and all these things, but I said, these are my values. I'm pro-LGBTQ, I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-immigrant. These are my values, these are my plans. If you want to accept me, I will work with you to achieve them. And I did the same thing with the independent party. So I think, listen, I think here in this city, this is what's needed. We need to come together. We need not divisive rhetoric that calls us apart. And it's the same thing that we need as a country. We need to vote for people that will stand for problem solving, not just party affiliation and ideology. Thank you.
Justin, 9 seconds.
This machine Democrat, so if you don't get enough signatures to get on the ballot, all of a sudden you call the system rigged, right? It sounds familiar. I, in 2019, was able to get enough signatures to get on the ballot and beat the incumbent. Let's not blame a system that is working and has a lot of people that are working very, very hard. This takes work and togetherness. And blame the system for our inability to get on the ballot.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We're up to closing statements. So, Wendy, if you could go first, you've got 2 minutes to make your final pitch to voters tonight.
Oh, this is the final pitch?
This is the final one. So you have 2 minutes.
Well, there's still a lot that needs to be said, but I've only got 2 minutes. The city has a spending and saving problem, not to mention a very shaky income strategy. This has got to change. If I get elected, I will rescue the taxpayers and small businesses that are left and tax the rich slumlords, developers, and Yale. Their taxes and fines will go way up, and I have a solid plan to sanction Yale until they come to the table and sign a contract with the city to pay a fair share of the yearly budget until this city is under Long Island Sound. Give me a chance to do it. I need your help. I need your votes.
Thank you, Wendy. Tom, 2 minutes.
This city can go in 2 very different directions. And we have a choice in this election. We can have a mayor who will fight. who will roll up his sleeves and hold the Board of Education accountable and fight to improve the education scores for our kids. Or we can go with the status quo. Education scores trending down to the worst in the state. The worst chronic absenteeism. On safety, we can have a mayor that will protect the quality of life of every neighborhood, that will bring back walking beats, block watches, that will work with the community to get illegal guns off the street, that will fill the vacancies in the police department. Or we can go with the status quo. A mayor who thinks that a solution to our problems is opening up a safe injection site, which will further add illegal drug sales, who doesn't believe in consequences for quality of life violations. For city finances, we have a mayor who has said that he will freeze taxes. That's right, I said it. I'm going to freeze taxes. I'm committed to that. Or we can go with the status quo. An administration that hasn't been able to hire a controller in 3.5 years, that lost $6 million without any explanation, that paid the highest settlement ever in the United States, and where taxes were raised 40%, deliberate or not deliberate, in the black and brown communities. Or transparency. We can have a mayor who stands for transparency, for getting things done with the community. Or, and also a mayor who will take down the door from the hinge of the mayor's office. Or we can have a mayor who closes and locks the door to the mayor's office, who makes decisions for communities on behalf of them without communicating with them. That's the decision. I humbly ask you, please choose me in this election.
I'm happy to rebut afterwards some of the incorrect things that were just said, but I am going to finish on a positive note. Just last week, the Milken Foundation went to John Martinez School and gave Alyssa Basso, one of our New Haven public school teachers, $25,000 and a recognition of being one of the top 75 teachers in the nation for excellence. She had no idea she was going to get the award. They all gathered together for this ceremony. And it was just a remarkable moment. And I bring up this kind of random moment because there are so many people in our city, working for our city, working in our community, that are following their passion, that so much care about creating a city where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And you see it every day in your experiences. I see it in my experiences every day in my role as mayor, in my role as a father, and the people that are teaching my children. And New Haven, we have so much more work to do. We know that. But we also are making remarkable progress. And the reality is, we can't make this progress with a mayor. We can't make this progress with a mayor. We have to make this progress together. And when you think about the importance of that, we get things done at the Capitol because we partner with our legislators, because I have a relationship with the governor and his team, because we work together to support their interests and they work together to support our interests. We get things done with Yale University because we partner with the Alders and Unite Here to jointly approve that proposal that we debated for a long time with Yale University. We do that together. And together, we make a difference in individuals' lives because we share the passion and the positivity. I ask you to allow me to continue this momentum, to continue improving our city. We have a lot of work together to do. And I hope that you'll continue on this journey together. Thank you.
Well, that is our debate. That's it. We did it. Hooray! Everyone, thank you for coming. Thank you to Justin and Wendy and Tom for following the rules and for being about. Thank you to Babs and Norma for being such great co-moderators. Thank you to Foxy Fun and Shipper. And November 7th, go out and vote.
This thing.